to do the hop, skip and a jump and then just inject through what was really not a hole. Tangitau is something else. He is, I don't know, Bryn, but I think he's going to be in black fairly soon.
Yeah.
Well,
Really soon.
I just what we've talked around like his ability with ball in hand and how quick he is, and I think he's shown how explosive he is in terms of like even with little line breaks. But if you just look at that pass chipper, like that's something that I really enjoyed seeing how he's able to do that at full speed, full click with a chasing defender to be able to get that ball. And look, possibly I don't think it was forward, but as Blue fans, you might have thought that could possibly be forward, but
it was forward out of the hand.
It was all good. It was only forward because he got absolutely poleaxed as he was trying to finish it.
What's a yellow card and red card with that? But I don't know. Sorry, I don't even want to bring
there's
that up.
mitigating. I've heard this a lot, and I get it. Like this is where you got to be careful that you don't go putting sanctions based on what happens, because then I think then you get frustrated when something's just a penalty when it should be a yellow card. So like we sort of spoke about this last week? And just the simplicity of it, like if there's mitigating, it goes to review, there'll be another panel that reviews it and it could get upgraded to a red card if it isn't. I don't think it has been. It didn't look great, but he was tackled from behind.
Yeah.
And falling. And Zahn, it just happened so quick, and they're obviously very good mates, so there's obviously no intent there, but I just think it gets, I like that. If there's a mitigation, it's yellow.
Yeah.
I think when we start going, okay, he was, really badly injured, which he was, like I get it, like I've been knocked out like that before and it's not pleasant. There's just going to be so much confusion. You don't want to enter more confusion into a game.
It's consistent now.
Yeah.
It's consistent. People understand.
Yeah, the system that we kind of have at the moment, and the consistency that's been shown throughout the whole year, I think it's pretty good. But just to be able to touch on the Blues and the Highlanders, like how good's Anton Segner playing Jipper? The last couple of times, that he's put on the jersey with, especially how much competition there is in that loose forward trio for the Blues. I think he's had an outstanding 3 weeks. Like his ability to be able to ball carry, which I think Jipper this year, he just seems like he's a little bit more of a weapon.
I really like him when he's at 7, and I'd love to see Dalton at 6 to get. But I know what you mean, Bryn. Like his ball carry's got up because of I think where the 6 sits in their phase play. But man, he's good. Like when he's got the 7 on his back, I reckon that's when he's at his absolute best.
For me, watching the game was in the balance, or wasn't in the balance at all. I think it was 40-21, and like the Blues pretty much scored 3 tries in 20 minutes post at half time. And I thought, game's pretty much done here. But, one little error from Bodie gets out the back, and then I guess that was kind of the catalyst. Take away Aki's try in the 70th minute, and then they kind of just go on a rampage post that. So I think if you're the Blues Jipper, you'd be a little bit disappointed, I think, with having that game in control, having probably a bonus point in mind, thinking you get 5 points, to be able to then, have a little bit of ill-disciplined errors with, AJ Lamb going off and then scoring a couple of tries post there. You're almost a little bit more frustrated because you played so well for 60 minutes, but, handbrake, let the handbrake off, and unfortunately, brought the Highlanders to come back, who could have actually come into the draw of the game to then go into extra time, like we saw with the Chiefs and the Hurricanes.
Big red flag for me in the Blues is 77% defence. Like they're the leading defence in the comp. Now, the Highlanders pounced, and Adam Lennox, full credit. Like he's done this at NPC for a while. He's a very smart footballer and plays on instinct really well, and he got rewarded. But I think the discipline caught the Blues out. But then their errors, the Highlanders just made them pay for any error they managed to score from.
Yeah, and their exits led to that.
Their
exit play was terrible.
Was poor. So key areas that the Blues, when they win, like those, the defence is high, the discipline's good, and they get out of their half. That wasn't there for most of the night though. Like even though the scoreboard was ticking along, it just, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm far too invested in the Blues and I watch it too intently, but I never felt, I was like, man, it's just there wasn't a flow. And the only thing, I asked Bern after the game, and the only thing I can sort of put it down to is there was a lot of change the last 2 weeks, but conceding 80 points, best defence in the comp, like maybe it is the chopping and changing of the squads for the last 2 weeks, and then once they get more settled, they're going to find their mojo a little bit. But like there's definitely, there'd be some concern. I know Craig McGrath certainly won't be happy with those metrics, and we'll be expecting a lot better.
Yeah.
But also do like how the Highlanders were ruthless. Like, I know they had their issues and the Blues scored their tries, but man, any mistake they pounced on and made them pay.
Yeah.
And they're only 4 points outside the 6. Like, you get this sense. Everyone's like, oh, their season's done. It's like, man, you get Caleb Tangitau back, you get Jonah Nareki in his 50-22s, and if you look at the schedules, I still think the Highlanders can sneak in.
Brumbies lost on the weekend to the Drua. Crusaders lost to the Force. So, they'll be looking around the table and being able to see where they're going to be at in the next couple of weeks. But, yeah, they have more than enough. When they put it all together, they'll be definitely there or thereabouts when it comes to the back end of the year if they can pick up wins here and there over the next couple of weeks.
Let's talk about the Crusaders. They had opportunities, but that Force team were gutsy.
We texted each other during the week, Brunner? And I said, that's a really good Force team that was named.
Probably the changes due to, especially coming late, we said, well, this is a bit of a danger game. We actually picked the Force. That it wouldn't be a surprise if they did. But look, I think they started off really, really well, and they were able to hold on to the ball for that first 20 minutes and been able to score tries through Bell, Lester, and Johnny. Johnny as well. Johnny McNichol's try. How good was that try, by the way, to be able to get a start? But look, I think the difference with what I saw, and Jip has talked about a lot with this Force team, their lineouts, and I think their lineout, especially the lineout more in the second half, really submitted and really put the Crusaders under pressure. And that was a pretty inexperienced 8 that I think at the back end of the game in their second half that were on the field. And I just think to their credit with the Wallabies and their experience, they were able to score kind of off it. I think, the first try, you look at probably Robertson in the 44th minute, you know how hard it is when that more's when it's going forward, especially going infield, and how hard it is to defend and around that short side with what Robertson did in that first try. And then I think you look at Lomax, same again, gets really nice and tight from the line out more and being able to make things really tight defensively for the backs, then be able to get the ball out to Lomax. And I think you even look at Peach's trial as well. Again, off the line out more, being able to build pressure, little pick and go for Peach down that short side. So I just think with what the forwards, especially that 8, around the line out more and put the Crusaders under pressure, and especially in a very, very inexperienced Crusaders pack that just weren't able to hold on in the end. So, yeah, a gutsy performance from the Force, and I think for the Crusaders, probably very, very disappointing the fact that they did get that head start, and even though there were inexperienced players there, not being able to probably get the job done when it was needed, and those pretty much in the second half when they had their opportunities.
And I think their line out, like them stealing a lot of ball off the Crusaders, just didn't allow that flow. Like the Crusaders couldn't go to their line out to win their ball and get their game going. Like that's what's made them 14-time champs, is when it gets tough, they go, right, we're going to go to set piece, and the Force sort of had that dominance there. Also felt that they may have played a little bit too much between the 40s. Like they didn't kick a lot, Brendan, and you do notice a massive difference in terms of their kick numbers when a Dave Havili's there, and the ability to, I suppose, in awareness of that backfield space. You sort of feel like, man, Lomax's first game and you're not manipulating that backfield. I don't know. I felt like that was a missed opportunity. I'm not saying he couldn't deal with it, but he just wasn't tested.
Yeah.
So they only kicked for 650 meters to 832. Like the Force just did not play in their half.
Yeah.
100% of the exits were kicking. They didn't bother running. They didn't have any failed exits. They just said, we are going down there and you can come back. And the Crusaders said, yeah, we'll have a crack.
Yeah, and the Force got turnovers.
Yeah.
And
then there was, 12 penalties, which is very unlike them. So it just, after such a hot start, you sort of thought, oh, this is going to be a blowout. But then the whole tide just started turning at set piece and in and around that maul D, leading to just back-to-back penalties.
Yeah.
And I mean, they nearly got there in the end. Obviously, the last try was disallowed, but I think they'll be frustrated with that performance.
An experienced group, their mindset would have been able to get a win, probably go 2 from 2, and the fact they've walked away 0 from 2 from the Australian tour, considering where they probably wanted to be on the table, it just brings up a pretty big weekend in the Super Round against the Waratahs. I know it'll be a big occasion to be able to have the first game there in Christchurch, but I think, depending on, I guess, the squad that they do have, they've just been absolutely killed with injuries over the last couple of weeks. And you're not having a Will Jordan, a David Harvilli, a big losses for that group, even an Ethan Blackadder. So, yeah, be very, very interesting to see what that squad makeup is going to be and what it is going to look like for the Waratahs. Because I think if you look at the Waratahs, and I know against Moana Pacifica, it was a tightish kind of game, but they held onto the ball a lot in that game against Moana Pacifica. Like in that first 15 minutes, I think they had 10 or 12 times that they went over 5+ phases. So their ability to be able to hold onto the ball, especially when it wasn't wet, it got wet in the back end of the game. They altered and changed up their game a little bit. Physically, I think if they're able to do that against the Crusaders, the Waratahs, being able to hold on the ball like they did, especially with kind of the inexperienced forward pack that they do have, it'll be an interesting day, I guess, for the Crusaders. It'll be very interesting to see what that lineup's going to be for that game in Christchurch.
I'm looking forward to the battle of, I'm assuming Hotham will start, but Jake Gordon. I know we're going to the Waratahs game, but God, he's good. I love everything about that guy. He's just such a good player in attack and defence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just shows you. I think if you look at the Blues and when that yellow card of Sullivan, man, it just showed how beneficial experience and leadership is. Like Paddy and Dalton, you could just see, we're like, boys, we're going to leave the breakdown. We're just going to turn up defensively. We're going to get down, it's invaluable. You've got to have some scars to get that sort of leadership and experience. And unfortunately, that Crusaders group got their scars in a hard way. But man, they need some of those senior players back if they are to defend this title.
A big moment in that game was when he got yellow carded in the 61st minute. Post that, they scored 2 tries. And again, with an inexperienced group, being able to lose that momentum, feeling that, I guess, the bit of being away from home, those guys experiencing that for the first time, they just need some kettle back. Cody Taylor wasn't there, so even though they'll be bitterly disappointed with that, with the 0 and 2 being in Australia, they just need to be able to get players on the field. It's got I wouldn't say a similar field to when they weren't able to win those games, not last year, the year before, but a lot of that inexperienced group and the big players that they didn't have, they lost games like that very much so in that year. So they've been able to pick up wins and they're thereabouts to be in the top 6, but they just need some cattle back to be able to gain some confidence. And I guess had the stop-start season that they kind of had to be able to then go forward into the playoffs if they can get them back on the field.